I am right in thinking that Prysmian, I may not be pronouncing it properly, Prysmian are doing the testing, this trench test that's coming up in September. Is that correct, please?
Yes, it is.
Is it also true that Prysmian are going to have the contract to supply the cable?
Yes, it is.
Right, okay, just questions. There are two existing converters, aren't there, in the middle of nowhere? I believe one is on the Isle of Grain, I probably got that wrong, another one on Canby Island, again, I may not have that right. Why can't those be tested for the EMF, which is the single biggest issue with this? Because there is no test you can do in the ground, and please, there are enough people in the room with degrees, so don't patronise us by saying, oh, it's the science. Explain in detail, please, how a limited voltage, limited ampage test is on a par with the actual current. And I'm sitting here with a maths degree, and I know there are plenty of other people in this room who've got degrees. We would cope with the explanation. So I would be grateful for how a very limited field test is on anyway on a par with the real DC current and what it will generate in the way of an electromagnetic field. Thank you.
We are actually doing some of that, and what I'll do is I'll ask my head of cables actually some of the detail and my EMF expert.
Thank you. So my name's John Swanson, and I look after these electromagnetic field issues for National Grid. I will try and give you an answer which respects your desire for some science. I'm also conscious I don't want to go too far into the science. I'll be delighted to talk afterwards or on another occasion about the science as much as anybody wants. But the DC cables, when they are installed for real, will be carrying 1600 amps. The voltage to drive 1600 amps across the channel in whichever direction and then power into the grid is a large voltage. To drive 1600 amps along 100 metres of cable and then back again, not supplying any load, is a much lower voltage. So the test that's being planned by Prysmian, which I am overseeing to make sure that the electric and magnetic field aspects of it work properly, will consist of passing 1600 amps, the identical current that will be flowing for real when the cables are crossing the channel, but passing that just along 100 metres and then back along the other cable, the other core of the conductor, the same 100 metres or thereabouts. And the voltage to do that is a lower voltage, which we're envisaging can be supplied by a diesel generator. So the answer is the test will reproduce exactly the same current as will be there for real, and the same applies for the AC test on the AC cable, where the current is 800 amps, I believe, on the current design. So each of those tests will reproduce the current that will be there for real. It won't be a lower current and then scaling or anything like that. It will be the actual current that will be present when the interconnector is operating.
And as there are existing converters in other parts of the south of England that are sited in the middle of nowhere, there is data available for the EMF generated by those cables.
Yes, as part of my job over the years, I have measured the interconnector at Sellinge and the interconnector at Grain, so measurements have been done on those, yes.
And I think the point that Brickman was trying to raise as well was about whether could they be used to carry out this test. So again, the real voltage as well as the real current.
We're in a sort of multi-way conversation with the council and with airport tenants like Britten Norman about exactly how many tests are going to be done to satisfy everybody that the final product will meet the planning constraints. And those planning constraints that were set so as to ensure no interference with airfield operations. So potentially we will do tests on some existing AC cables. One of those might be the short length of cables that are already at chilling, where the overhead line goes down. And we're looking at some other sites as well where we might do tests on existing AC cables. And we plan to do tests on existing DC cables, both at Sellinge, where the cables go from Sellinge, if you know the geography, they run along to Folkestone and they go out to sea at Folkestone, and there's a location there which we can use, and at Grain, there's a location there that we plan. So potentially we're going to do tests of the DC cables that already exist at both of those interconnector locations, as well as setting up the cables on the Prysmian site, and potentially the sites that we talked about, actually laying out the cables on the airfield. Now, conversations are still going on about how many of those tests will end up being done, but potentially we will do as many tests as are necessary to convince the council, to convince Britain Norman, and personally I'm very happy to include representatives of residents' associations in the test. Come along and witness them by all means, as far as I'm concerned. There's nothing secret here, there's nothing being hidden. These tests will, I believe, and I'm confident enough that I'm prepared to have them exposed to external scrutiny, they will demonstrate that when we say the finished product will meet the constraint, we have a strong basis to doing that because the existing ones demonstrate that.
Okay, thank you. I hope that's helpful to you. It's a very good point, Stan. And it is one of the most important elements, I think, too, is certainly from the airfield point of view, is making sure that our tenants who are there already and tenants who would look to move into the site, that we don't do anything to damage the credibility of the airport and enterprise line.